FM Corner. I'm Danny Kent, your host, Director of Relationship Management for Windy City Equipment. Today on my podcast, I have someone I've known for a really long time. Both of us have been in the industry for several years and seen a lot of changes and reflection. Today, my guest is Lisa Matthews. Lisa is the Manager of Business Development for, I got to make sure I get this right, American National Facilities Management. Is that correct?
It's a big, long thing to say. Yes. we lovingly call ourselves ANFM Services.
There you
so
go.
We stop the drama.
All right. We're going to talk a little bit about the industry, some things, and get to know a little more about Lisa's background and how we kind of got to where we are today. We'll start with a pretty easy question. Talk a few minutes, Lisa, about your career. Kind of start to where you are today.
Started in career the butt end of 1999 into 2000. And I started in lighting, designing lighting electrical with a smaller company. And then kind of morphed into, not with this company, but a new company, morphed into construction, which I love, challenging every day. Yeah, took it to the next level.
And you've seen a lot of changes, obviously, in this industry over time, right?
From 1999 to now? Absolutely. Yeah. We witnessed the bottom out in 2007. That was crazy.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But kind of talk about what ANFM Services does. What does it provide, and who's kind of your target audience?
ANFM does full facilities. We do remods. We do new builds.
Oh, okay.
So we're all over the place with that. We have great teams. Each team is very specific on what they do. Really well-grounded team as well. Excuse me, I got to clear my throat because I've been talking all day. But they're a really good team. And my target audience is obviously retail restaurant, but I take it a bit further for me. I love doing commercial real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to handle, the 1 million or 1 billion square foot game going on there. Sure. And with that, we do all kinds of like asphalt repair, all kinds of strange plumbing issues, like big things.
Sure.
We do facade repair. Anything that leaseor is responsible for, we're doing. And it might be at a Staples, and Staples isn't my client, but I might be in a Staples store for an issue.
Sure.
Or Supercuts or, something that matter. Right. So I think it keeps us very busy.
I know on the restaurant side, I don't know if this applies on retail and stuff as well, but you mentioned doing both remodels and new construction. Mm-hmm. In the restaurant side of the business, for the most part, in most companies, that was very segregated. There was a group of folks that did new construction, and they never touched remodels. And there was a group of people that did remodels, and they didn't necessarily ever touch new construction because of the differences. Is that right? The same on the retail side or no?
No, I don't see a difference. In my perspective with my company, we don't see a difference. They will call us for a remod. They will call us for new construction. And we've been doing new construction for quite some time.
Sure.
So it's not something we added to our menu. It's always been there.
Maybe part of that was because on the restaurant side, and I don't know how this still applies today, but in my day, as a facility manager, you would do remodels and the restaurant would never close. And, as opposed to new construction, which is obviously until you build it, there is no business. But in a remodel, you're doing it for a week and a half to 2 weeks and the restaurant's staying open the whole time. I would think that would be on the retail side. It'd be different, obviously.
Well, I remember those days too when CapEx was strictly CapEx. Like that was a different, sure. Monkey, and then remod was indifferent. And remod we would do in the evening times on the weekend. But I don't really, at least I can say for myself with this company, they don't break us out like that.
Oh, okay.
Use us for CapEx and use us for a small project or medium project.
Sure.
Buildbacks, vanilla box, anything.
Right. I understand. Got it.
And then we have, the regular facilities, the one-offs, the reactive, the proactive. So the recurring.
Right. Water heater busted, need a plumber, something happened like that.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Kind of what's important to you that you look for when you are selecting customers to provide service. Now, I understand the customers calling or contacting, but what goes in your decision process of this is a customer we want versus I don't know if we want this or not? What,
I think it's mutual. The customer or the client and I probably select each other,
mhm,
and it's just bringing added value. So if I'm calling a customer, I have to make sure that I'm bringing added value. So I'm going to do a little research. Can I handle their regions? Can I handle their needs? Maybe restaurant, retail, commercial real estate. So I have to make sure it's key fit before I even do anything. So I think it's like I'm calling on you and I'm telling you my value add. You're telling me what you need, or vice versa. Actually, you tell me what you need. I'm
sure.
giving you. I think it works that way. I think it's really mutual.
You utilize your network of all the people you know to find out about a particular customer or not. In other words, in Ruby Tuesday days, when a customer, a vendor per se, would contact me and say, "Hey, we want to do business with Ruby Tuesday," my very first question out of the box was, "Okay, tell me what restaurant people you work for now." That's the
Right.
most important question in the world to me because odds are I knew who the facility people were. And if they name a company, I'm like, okay, I know that person. I'll contact them because that was my Google in some
Yeah,
respect.
back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I trusted XYZ who worked for Brinker or who worked for Darden or wherever else. I knew them. I trusted them. And
Yeah.
so if the answer was one of those, I'm like, okay, I get it, and then I'd follow up with them and kind of get information that way.
And with a restaurant, that's a completely different monkey than retail for sure.
Sure, sure.
So you do really have to know what you're doing in that situation. And quite honestly, my boss, he came from Friendly's restaurant. He was a
Okay.
facilities manager there, so he knows the monkey. So as far as retail and or a restaurant, and I kind of load schools in there too
Hmm.
because of the OSHA situations and everything. So they're a different monkey as well. So yeah, but retail or restaurant is definitely a different monkey.
Seemed hard. I'd always said, and I've never done retail. And I was kind of like, okay, in retail, let me think about it. I got air conditioning, I got plumbing, uh,
Tile work,
yeah, but yeah, tile work or whatever floors or there's some painting and
refrigeration.
so on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't have to deal with equipment if I was in retail. I'm not dealing with fryers, griddles, ovens,
No.
refrigerators, whatever. So it seemed like it was a little different. And a long time ago, I always made the story. I'm like, if a person's significant other was to go to a restaurant and the restaurant didn't have air conditioning, 90% of those folks will just go to another restaurant because at the end of the day, it really didn't matter. Food was food. However, if they were going shopping and they needed something and they went to the mall and say the mall was out of air conditioning, they may still go shopping. They're just not staying as long. They're going to come in and get what they got and go.
Well, that's the sense of urgency is where we're talking about here.
Yeah, right.
Restaurant. If your food's not chilling, if the restaurant's not chilling, you're losing business quickly. So I'm not saying that retail doesn't have a sense of urgency for some things, but
Right.
for restaurant, absolutely.
Yeah,
There's a
you have
huge
better chance at reaction
Mhm.
as opposed to right now.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Give me three critical items a vendor must provide to its customers.
Well, I call it the hat:
Okay.
honesty, accountability, and transparency. that's a rule.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a rule that I impose on my team.
And out of that becomes trust.
Yeah.
And trust is one of the most valuable things that you can have is to, the for that vendor, every time I spoke to a vendor as a facility manager, was they had to have all three things that you had said. Otherwise, I wasn't going to be doing business. But be honest with me. Tell me if it's bad. Tell me it's bad. You know,
That's where the trust comes in.
yeah. If you make a huge mistake, tell me. I can live with that. You know,
Well,
I can fix that. That's not a big deal.
this is a non-tangible place we're in, so trust is everything.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
if you're honest, you gain trust.
You got to have honesty. You have to have the accountability. Tell me you messed it up. That's fine. That's part one of the answer. Part two is going to be, tell me what you're doing about it.
Right?
Okay, this is what happened, and here's what I'm going to do to fix it. Last night we were doing your remodel and the painters didn't show up. Okay, that's not the end of the world. Now, what are you doing about it tonight? I'm bringing in another crew and more people, and we'll catch back up by the weekend, and we'll be back to where we need to be. Okay, great. That's good.
And that's communication.
Yeah, those things happen. Yeah, and don't the transparency part is a huge piece of that. Don't hide it. Just tell me. Just tell me. I mean, I manage facilities. My day starts off bad every day. That's part of it. It's fixing problems, and I can only fix problems based on what you tell me. That gives me the information. If you withhold something from me, then I may make a different kind of decision. It'll end up being wrong. I used to tell restaurant managers that all the time. Tell me what really happened. Hey, Danny, my convection oven has water in it. There's water getting in it, and I have no idea why. What do you mean? You don't know why? And we go on for a day or two, and then, oh, you hose the oven down at night. Okay, that's where the water came from. That information would have been great 48 hours before, before I called the manufacturer and I went through all these different hoops to know that this was a self-inflicted wound. We caused the problem in the store. You didn't want to be transparent, and it cost us 48 hours, before we learned what really happened to make a decision. That's not good.
See, all you saying that just exhausts me. So don't say a lie because you have to chase the lie for a lot of like 3 days. Like it is what it is. Nobody's perfect, and that's for sure.
I mean, people make mistakes. Someone in that restaurant thought it was a good idea to hose down the oven at night. I would assume there'd been discussion about clean and how clean the ovens need to be and so on and so forth. Someone made a decision that they thought was right. That it wasn't, but it's not the end of the world. Somebody was trying to get a very clean oven. They just went about it the wrong way. Simply that.
Laughing because it's the first time I've heard something like that. Oh Lord,
it's a true story. We spoke recently after a previous podcast I did about people not communicating, and I'm on the same side of the fence as you are now, as we are reaching out to customers, trying to get business, speaking to people, and so on. And spoke a little bit about the frustration of people not communicating or even responding. Talk a little bit about some of the things you've experienced in that as well.
it's really a sensitive side for the communication. Again, communication is the building blocks for success. So when it fails, nobody's going to be successful. You might have a great team of vendors that are working for you, and I'm saying on the other side, working for you, and there's a couple vendors trying to call you, and maybe a lot will call you.
Sure.
You might want to cherry pick, put them aside, or just reach out and say, "Hey, not interested." It takes what, 2 seconds to type that out, depending how fast you type, and then our job's done there, your job's done there. But the communication breakdown just came out of kind of nowhere. And I think some retail restaurant are going to say, well, it came from somewhere. Too busy, a lot of layoffs, a lot of reorg. Too busy is great. I mean, being busy is great. A region was added to a couple 10 locations are allocated to you. You're not used to having that large a region. You're busy, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, our job as developers, and I hate to call us salespeople, as developers are to build a relationship. And if you're not interested in it, shut us down. Otherwise, we're going to put you on a call rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to save yourself time and us time if you just shut it down. Or even say, back in the day was famous, call me in August, call me in September. I'm not interested. Next year, maybe. I'll keep you on file. Anything like that would be better than delete without being read.
Sure.
I had 3 of them this morning. In my little mind, I'm always thinking, maybe they read it on the sidebar and just deleted it. But at least they read it. But, it's.
Well, you know what I think a lot of that is, and I am very old school. I'm a face-to-face communicator. Talk to anybody, talk to everybody.
Danny, I remember.
And that's kind of how that. I think COVID might have been the start to that, to change some of that, because of, again, a lot of people lost their jobs and had to move around, and that was a part of it. But a lot of people went remote. That's when remote kind of became, it's okay.
I agree with that.
It's not people ripping off the company by working at home. It actually, there's some good out of it. And what happens when people work remotely for a long period of time and stuff, it's all keyboard. It's not face to face, and even Zoom and so on. That's not the same as face to face. And so they got away from those conversations, and it became harder to have. In other words, it became harder for somebody to say no face to face, and they weren't having those opportunities. So again, it just became, okay, I'll just ignore it, and they'll stop. And as you mentioned before, as salespeople, you're supposed to continue to try to communicate. And I told a few people that I finally got to speak with and so on, if I ask you if we can provide HVA service for your restaurants, and you tell me you have a company that you are using and they are doing a very good job for you, I'm a former facility manager. That's a good answer. That means, 1, you're loyal to the people you're using. 2, that loyalty is because they're doing a good job for you.
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm okay with that. And then I will put on the list and I will ask, can I call you in 6 months? You have my information. If anything changes or you need a second opinion or a backup, please contact me and let me know, and then move on. Right. But people say so-and-so keeps continuing to reach out to me because they've never got an answer.
Right.
I mean,
it saves company time, and it saves just the frustration of it too, because we try not to take things personal.
Sure.
But we need to have just 3 this morning, read, delete without being read. I can see your company needs some vendors because you're traveling all over the place, putting your own eyes on it. Why don't you get some vendors that can actually do that? Sure. So don't think I didn't do the research on you, and then you're just going to delete. I'm like, well, there's your problem.
Yeah, this is actually in years at Ruby Tuesday, and I would speak to anybody. Now, it's not a 45-minute dog and pony show and so on, but if you call me, you tell me what, and I'm going to give you an answer. I'm interested. No, I'm not. I might be in the next 6 months or next year, and here's a time frame to call me back. Now, if I say it's March, call me in August, and you call me next week, then you didn't listen. And
we're following rules.
And at this point, I'm like, okay, I come on, or.
Well, that gives you a little tidbit about who they are. So you didn't follow the process.
Yeah. I mean, I asked, can we do this? And you didn't choose to adhere. Well, okay, you're the one trying to sell to me. I get to make the rules per se, and you didn't follow. Okay, now we have, now it's probably not going to happen and down the road. But at least just let me know I'm not interested. I have someone. Take 5 minutes and give me that information. Okay, great, thank you, and then move on to the next person would be the way to go. But so many people just don't, and I think COVID probably started, and then I think people just had a hard time saying no. And the whole point of the whole conversation is, you know as well as I do, saying no is okay. It's okay. I said no many more times than I did say yes.
Hey,
Many
my
times.
bosses said you're the worst, best salesperson ever because if we can't do something or I don't feel comfortable, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, we're not going that region or we're not doing that service.
You
No.
never want to promise what you may or may not without certainly be able to deliver. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's the worst thing in the world. It's kind of like, someone calls and, Lisa, can you have a guy in Philly by Thursday and he does this by Friday? Well, unless you're ironclad sure that you can make that happen, you don't
Well,
say
Danny, I'm from
yes.
Philly. I'm from Philly, so I got a guy.
Yeah, you got a guy. But okay, but you pick somewhere else and you don't have a guy, and you say yes, and then you hang the phone up, and now you're trying to scramble to figure out how am I going to make that happen. More
No.
times than not, you're not going to.
And it doesn't serve us on our part either because we are scrambling.
That's correct.
People, that is really not time management, which costs money. So no is a really good word if you don't feel like losing time and traction with your client and, the staff running around. So it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
It never did. It never did.
So hopefully, if you're a facility manager out there and people are calling you and requesting to do business, and that's a good thing. Take 2 minutes, take 5 minutes, send them back a 2 or 3 line email and let them know. You just never know that someday someone that calls you could be a big help to your company, either now or down the road.
Yeah.
And you don't do it. My biggest fear at Ruby Tuesday was, what happens if my CEO gets on a plane and sits down next to a salesperson, and that salesperson has the best idea of the year, and I didn't talk to that guy when he called? What if I'd blown him off and I never talked to him, and then he speaks to my CEO and my CEO says, call so-and-so, and he goes, I tried. And
Darn, that's deep thinking there.
I mean, it scared me to death. What if that, I'm going to talk to everybody and just do that. So, yeah, it's an important subject.
On the flip side, too, if, back in the day, my bosses, when I'm in the office, would go through my system. What if I didn't call that person at the right time? That person was ready for a new vendor and they hire a new vendor because I didn't call them at the right time. Like sure. it goes through your head too.
Yes, absolutely.
And timing is actually everything when you're doing development. I don't like the word sales development because we're not salespeople. You don't walk into a cell phone store and somebody sells you a cell phone. That's a salesperson.
Right.
We're developers. We build longevity, relationships, trust, and value. So sales is kind of weird to me.
Love the word. Love the word.
Yeah, because it is your longevity. If you go buy a car, you're probably not going back there for at least your lease agreement or your term.
Sure.
You're not going back to your special guy at the cell phone store. That's sales. The vacuum cleaner guy back in the 60s that showed up your door, you're probably not seeing him.
Correct.
We're developers.
Developers. Love the word. Why do you think that I mean, we probably touched on it, but why do people not want to respond? Is it fear of saying no? They don't know. They don't like that. They don't like uncomfortable, what they would feel is an uncomfortable conversation.
If that's the case, we're on podcast now. Everybody listening, we don't care about the word no. We'd rather have it than a click or a non-responsive. So, I mean, take that out of the mix. That's kind of strange. Busy. Do we remember back in 2007 when the bottom fell out? The same thing happened with COVID. How back then were we still communicating? People were misplaced, fired. People were taking over more stores than they wanted to, or locations or sites. Everything was just in a bad space. Mm-hmm. COVID did the same thing. So how from then to now did we lose communications?
Because everybody's busy. Everybody. It's the I'm busy. Well, everybody's busy. If you're not, you're probably not even, or whatever. Everybody's busy.
Yeah.
So, how does that how did you define busy different than busy of someone else or me or anybody else? Everybody's
Right.
busy. Everybody has a lot going on, you know.
And not taking anything away from the folks that have taken on regions that didn't expect, it came upon them quickly, not taking that away. We're just here to help. If you
Sure.
don't have people in that area, I'm calling you. If you don't answer, how do you know?
Yes, exactly.
How do you know?
How do you know?
And I'm not new to it. So when Lisa calls, of course, there's call ID now. So like, what the hell is she want? So they know why I'm calling.
Sure.
But if I can help in a region where they already knew they were weak and I'm in, why wouldn't you answer the phone and say, hey, like, let me just reorg this, get my head wrapped around it, and I'll give you a call. Or right now, no, we're not spending money or holding off, whatever the case may be. But I really think communication it's it promotes success on both sides.
Sure. And if you never respond to anybody new in any form or fashion, you've either done the greatest job in the history of the world of picking your vendors, which no one's ever done because there's
Right?
always a. How would you ever know that something else potentially could be the perfect fit for your company
Mm-hmm.
if you've never done it? And or you've said, I have perfect vendors all over the board. I doubt that. You
No,
probably got some really good ones and you got some that are okay, but how do you ever know?
you know me personally, and I'd be like, oh, heck no, I'm not doing that trade. Oh, no, I don't do Utah. I don't
Yeah,
do South Dakota.
sure.
But
So,
you are right. How do you know if you're not, even if you don't have to pick the phone up or have that?
curiosity. Yeah. Send me your stuff and let me look at it. Maybe there's something in there that I'll circle and go, hey, that's really cool.
I love the word curiosity. Everybody let the curiosity out of the hat. Give somebody an opportunity just to speak. You don't have to make changes. You really don't.
Sure. And you may not need them today, but you may, there comes a point where you may, or something happens to your existing vendor or whatever. And, to be able to go back into your file and go, golly, I talked to a guy that did the Southeast corridor. Let me look that up. Okay, I got it. This is who it was. He called 3 months ago and so on. And okay, now let me.
I've had people call me just because my business card was a magnet. They're like, "You were on my filing cabinet. Do you still do?" Years later, and I'm like, "Yeah, I still do.
Sure, absolutely.
And you still want."
What's your biggest success in your career, Lisa, and your biggest regret?
Mm, the success is little part personal and professional. In 2008, 2007, our bottom dropped. I was making a career change. Let me take a break here. My mom was diagnosed with brain cancer. My sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm making a career change and getting a divorce. Boom, how much is going to be thrown at me? And I just stopped and said, focus. This was my mom's words. Focus and stay on the path. And when she passed away, I kept that in my head, and then moved on to the larger spectrum of what we do as in construction.
Sure.
And I kept my path. And I'm like, the success is I actually listened to my mom when I was younger and kept it in my head. And every day is now a success. When we get emails like, hey, this is why the team's been calling you. You guys are awesome. These are like the success stories every day that we work together
Sure.
with my clients, my partners, and my team. So success started, believe it or not, when the bottom dropped out, my mom ringing in my head, keeping me on the path. Focus, 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 stay on the path. And when she passed away, I, did my thing and moved on to construction and help make things better, I hope. Regret. I don't like the word regret. It sounds like living in the past. If I'd done something or said something wrong, I take away the positive of it and apologize for the negative if I've given somebody a negative. But I don't like the word regret because it feels like you're stuck in the past. So if I did something wrong or I've said something wrong, I apologize and I move on. So I consider regret really like a learning experience. Like, don't do that again. Don't say that again. And, do the takeaway positive.
Your success piece was awesome, and I 100% get regret. I guess I look at it, and when someone says, "What's your biggest regret?" I'm like, let me go through my career, and I'll tell you one thing that I would have done differently. And that's not, is that regret? I don't know. If I had to do over, and I knew all the things I know today, back then,
Oh
I would
yeah,
have done some things differently, especially in my early management days. I didn't know how to manage. I managed according to how I was taught, and how I was
right.
taught was getting screamed at every day and called every name in the book. And I'd go home at night and look that up, see what that really meant, But I had to learn how to manage, and I had to learn how to manage several different people that had several different styles. But because in the business of early days of Ruby Tuesday, I came up with everybody got treated the same, didn't matter. That's
Right.
the way it was. That's not how it turned out to be, and so on. And so I had to learn things. That was kind of regret. I looked at success, and you mentioned this in part of your piece. I worked in facilities. I could never do everything operations wanted fast enough, quick enough, or cheap enough. I couldn't. But there would be a day where one person would pick up the phone and said, "Hey, you helped me out of a major jam today." And that means more than the 22 people that said, "My God, when are you going to get this done?" Or whatever. But that one person that said, "Hey, you helped me today, and I appreciate it." That's what brought you back every day, was
Right.
for that one person at a time to try to
They
try
don't
to.
even know how big that is to us.
Oh
Like
no,
that's
it's huge, absolutely huge, But because you did get one right, and understood there were some things you couldn't get done. But
and
that,
that's a good point too, Danny. When somebody calls you like you're only as good as the last call, at least they called you to let you know. So the
sure,
communication's still going. So I
yeah,
call that a plus too.
exactly. Last question. Give me something you've learned from your career in serving customers that's really important. Good takeaway.
Super simple. Listening. Listening is the key. Your customer, your client is going to tell you what they need and where they need it. And you're going to make sure in your mind you can do that. And that becomes a key fit. So just listen. It's not rocket
No.
science at all.
And it's, to your point, they're going to tell you what they want. They're going to tell you what matters
Mhm.
and what's important. And by listening, you're going to hear it. And then your job is to deliver it the very
Absolutely.
best that you can.
Yeah. And that's called a developer,
Develop.
not a salesperson.
Love it. I love that term. You're right. You're exactly right, is to listen. And I think, also, when I was doing facilities, I would sit down with the vendors that did a lot of work for me and say, "Hey, I want to tell you what Ruby Tuesday is about. I'm going to tell you what it's about. And I'm going to tell you what I'm about. And here's what I believe, and this is what I want. And these are the things. I can live with mistakes all day long, but I need transparency. I need honesty. I need blah, 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 blah. There's three things that are non-negotiable. I'm going to tell you what they are. If any of these three ever happen, we're done as a business partner. We're done. There is no court. There's nothing. These three, if any of those three happen, that's it. I'm telling you up front, you're never going to be able to say, "Well, he never told me." No, I'm telling you. And I'm also going to pitch the positive side. And then I'm going to ask them to do the same. You tell me about your company. What are your values? What are the things you stand for? What's this? What makes you walk away from a client? You tell me. I want us to know, because we're partners. So to be partners, we have to both understand. And it's not just going to be me because I'm the customer, so I'll tell you my side and that's the way it is. No, 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 no. You have equal stake in this. You tell me as well. So we both understand as we move forward. I know what's important to you.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, I mean,
Hallelujah. Communication.
you got to talk. You always have to talk. And you're right.
Even if you don't want to talk, you got to talk.
That's a big piece of what we've lost a little bit, and it hurts. And no matter when it's just email or it's a text or so on, conversations are still important. How's it going? What do you need? What do we do well? What do we not do well? Let's have a 10-minute catch up. Let's, spend 15 minutes talking about something and bouncing ideas. You and I talk all the time about a variety of different subjects,
Yep.
Could be related to a podcast, could have been, hey, I want to run something by you. Have you ever dealt with this, or what have you done? And that's communication information. We need to be doing more of it.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, we're all always learning. This industry day by day is something like, where did that come from? How did that break? Who did that?
yeah.
So it's always learning, and you learn off each other, because it's a great industry. It's a big industry, but it's a little community.
Sure.
And I think we just lost that.
Yeah. And we got to get it back. You're right.
Absolutely.
Well, that's about all the time that we have today for the episode. Lisa, thanks so much for taking the time to be on FM Corner. I truly appreciate it. Those of you out there listening, there's lots of good tidbits and information that you can pick up. Obviously, communication is a big one for both of us, but talk to people, take a few minutes, do whatever you can, because someday you may be on the other side of that.
Absolutely.
And so, talk to people, take the time. And as Lisa said, the most important part is listen, not listen to answer, listen to understand. That's the critical part. Lisa, thanks so much for spending time with me today.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you next week.